Victorian sitting down there, that's us. So I can start in a lot of different directions, but since most of you are AV, or all of you are AV students, I'm going to probably center more around that, and I'm not going to talk a ton. I'm actually hoping that you guys, I want to listen to what you have to say and what your questions are, because that's more important and why we're here. Just to give you a brief background, and it will be brief, I actually grew up and graduated out of Henryville. My mom and dad grew up in Sellersburg and Silver Creek. They're Silver Creek alumni. They've since passed, but so I'm very familiar, and this is where I ran around a lot. Here in Sellersburg and New Albany, that was my places to get in trouble with. Okay, so, but I started this business in '82. But when I left school, I was a musician. I was a trumpet player and a singer, and I was going to be a music professor, and that's what I was in at school for. Life kind of threw me a change, and years later I found myself in the marketing business. That's the best way I can explain it. But I didn't let go of my music. In fact, I just quit playing professionally about 6 months ago. So you can still do your passion. That's one thing I want you to get to understand. If you got something that you really love, it doesn't mean that you have to let go of it, okay? You just got to find a way to support it. That's what I did, okay? So I just found out that I was also good at understanding what marketing was, but what I do for a living primarily, and this is why it's kind of difficult to separate one little section, because what I primarily do for a living is that I'm a business consultant. And my emphasis, though, is in brand marketing. And the reason that is because in working with a lot of businesses and working with their spreadsheets and explaining the margins, which, by the way, if any of you in this room ever are thinking about starting your own business, you're going to need to understand that too. A lot of people I've talked to, I had a woman one time called me and said, I want to sell my video business. And she'd been in business for 15 years and been very successful. And, but it was just her primarily. And she said because when she signed up for this and opened her business, all she wanted to do is shoot video. She didn't want to deal with people. She didn't want to pay them, be with payroll. She didn't want to handle phone calls. She just wanted to shoot video. Well, if you're thinking about doing that, realize someone's going to have to do that if you want to grow. So those are skills that you have to kind of take on and learn, is what I did. When I first started in the media business, some of you won't understand what I'm about ready to say. Everything was done in lead. That means we typed on the typewriter a script. It was taken upstairs to the press room, and they literally would transfer all that information and put it in lead, and then lead was printed on the paper. And that's what the presses did. So that's where I started, and you can see where we are today. Today, the team I work with, anything they do, I do. So I have web designers, and I design websites. I have videographers, I do videography. I edit videography. I shoot photography. I write content for social. I load the content for social. I do the design for social. Anything my team can do, I can do. And I'm saying that because I'm a lot older than any of you, and many of you can combine your ages and I'd be older. But the point is, I'm still loving what I do. And I'm doing what I do because of that passion, okay? And more importantly, I help people. That's kind of what drives me. One of the things you're going to have to ask yourself in the years ahead is, why are you doing that? What's the really core driving of why you're doing? Some of you may say, well, to get the recognition, and that's fine, but recognition leaves sometimes, okay? Some of you, it will be because I don't know, I can't explain it, I just love doing this. Others, you're doing it because you see how it helps people or how it changes things. You make a difference. I was telling Alex that one of my pleasures in my business is that as a business consultant, imagine it was developing a brand. What happens is that I end up helping companies grow. Most of the companies that come to me either have tried to grow and something happened where it stopped and they couldn't figure out how to make it continue. Derby Dinner Playhouse is one of those. When we first came to them, any of you ever been to Derby Dinner? You're awful young. Oh, you have, very good. But Derby Dinner came and they was trying to sell season tickets. And the season tickets, the most they could sell was about 1,800. And no matter what they did, they couldn't sell any more. Well, today, Derby Dinner has 11,000 season ticket holders. That's 40% of their business before they even open the show. Okay? That's allowed them to celebrate their 50th year this year. So that's what gives me joy. Another client that started out, there's a plumbing company over in Louisville, ASI Plumbing. If any of you saw their billboards, you'll see this little talking toilet over there. That's us. We developed him. We had a flat Tommy first, you know what a flat, just a flat drawing. And now there's Pixar Tommy. Okay, you know what Pixar is. So it's a dimensional drawing that we use that talks, and we use a local performer at Derby Dinner to do the voice. So a lot of things I love to do is because I'm in different worlds at different times. In the marketing business, there's just constant change, which I love. The thing I hate about the business is there's constant change. Okay? You always have to be ready to go. If you go to our website, you get a chance to do that, you'll see it'll say solution-based marketing. And that's what we do. We solve problems. If somebody can't grow a business, we show them how to do that. Okay, that's what that putting vision into action is about. So I said I was going to be very brief here. The other thing I want to point out before I'm going to just open it up to you guys, and we'll take as long as you want, is that, again, I grew up in Henryville, small school, very small school, smaller than you guys, and I've been able to be successful and make a living for a lot of years, a good living. Okay, I've been able to help a lot of people. And so it doesn't matter really where you come from. I talk to a lot of college students. I hire a lot of college students, and some of them go on, some of them stay. We do a lot of outsourcing now because when I first did the business, everybody was in that building that you drive by in Spring Street. There's 3 floors, so they were all full. Today, there's 4 of us that are day-to-day, and everybody else is outsourced. The cool thing to me is all the people that I'm outsourcing with were former employees of mine. So I'm still contracting with them. I'm still working with them because that's what COVID has done. Okay, they sent us all in remote, work. But if you're a videographer, if you're a photographer, if you are a graphic designer, if you like writing, period, in journalism. If you're just visual, most of you in this room, whether you're comfortable with it or not, you like people. It's business. If you're in drama, some of the best employees I've ever hired, honestly, were musicians and drama kids. Why is that? I'll tell you the reason. Why is that?
Because we're comfortable performing.
Because what?
We're comfortable performing and like putting ourselves out
there. Yeah, and why do you perform?
Yeah,
but at the end of the day, what do you really perform? What do you want to hear?
Music.
The what?
Music.
Yeah.
Applause.
The applause. As a drama student, I mean, I know this because I've done a little bit myself. My son was in drama from Floyd Central. Do the drama, it's over. Poof. Depression. What I do now, right? It's similar in marketing. It's similar when you're doing a project with AV, okay, or photography, or whatever you're trying to put together. You get all in and you put everything you got, and then when the project's over, there's always going to be a slight letdown. The cool thing is just to just constantly be looking
Pardon the interruption.
What's left.
If you are a member of the Ozone, please go to the gym for your picture. D&D Club, Student Athletic Association, YFCA, and future medical professionals, all please report to the gym for your picture. Thank you.
Okay, one of you guys supposed to be taking those pictures? Okay.
They bring in some outside.
Okay. Oh, well, why?
I know. I often wondered that. But
Thank you. Okay. So the thing, as we go through this, as I finish up here on this part, is that just try to understand about what's driving you and what's making this happen. For me, it's the constant change. It's the helping of people. It's watching companies grow and flourish. all the families that have helped. The other thing is, honestly, is doing this. A lot of people that come in our office because we're a very small shop. There's very hands-on. So a lot of them will come in and they're at a small salary because we're a small shop, but within a year and a half to 2 years most, at tops, they're making 4 and 5 times more than that because they can. Now I'll tell you there's a trick to that. They can do more than one thing. I just explained to you all the things that I do during the day. That's not all of it. I also write marketing plans, I write business plans, I write television scripts, you know, I do a lot of different things, okay? Everybody that comes to work with us has to have a specialty, but they have to have some diversity in what they do. All right? So that means if you walk in we just hired a graphic designer out of IUS earlier this year. She started as an intern. I was telling Alex, she stayed after her internship to graduation. She graduated, then she stayed. She's been here since, okay? And she lives in Tell City. So she commutes a couple days a week, and the rest of the time she's working from home. She's extremely good. But when she came in, she was extremely good at her graphic design. She understood some photography, and she understood one class of web, but that was it. Today, within the last 9 months, she now is a very accomplished videographer, editor, photographer. She writes content. I can send her out on anything. She meets people well. She communicates well. That's another thing. If you have been tested out, I got to say this before I quit here. If you've tested out and you say that's fine for you, you can stand up in front of people like this. I couldn't do that. I've heard that a lot. Just realize that I test out as an introvert. I truly do. I test out as an introvert. If you saw me in a party normally, I would probably, if Alex was over there, I might gravitate over there because I knew him and I'd talk to him, so I'd be talking to somebody. But otherwise, I'm not one of these guys going, hey, you know, this is something this is here, okay? That's another reason I love drama majors, because they understand what I just did. I played the part, okay? When you play the part after a while, you get good at the part, and you can do it. So it's not that you're not good at it, it's just that you haven't practiced it, okay? But I want you to understand diversity in what you do. If you want to pursue into this marketing or AV or any of that stuff, being able to do multiple things for the person you're going to work with as an employer, or if you want to start your own business, the people that you do it for, the more diversity. Because if you can just do one thing, then they're only going to come to you for one thing. I had a guy yesterday, one of my clients, referred to me as the scrounger. That doesn't sound really good, really, does it? But what he meant by that is he learned very quickly that I'm the guy that knows the guy. So over the years, what I've done is that I've made connections that if I can't do it, I know somebody that can. If I haven't got time to do it, I know somebody that can. So I have a whole different value than just one thing. So now your revenue base is diverse. So you can make money on a lot of different things. And all during that time, I've been making money and hearing the applause of standing in front up and singing in front of people, okay? All that time, my other passion. One last thing, I started at the Tribune. I was in retail doing a department store because I couldn't find another job, so I was a department head of auto parts. And I was doing that for a while. A local guy who did the newspaper ads for the organization found that I could draw. And so he hired me as the New Albany Tribune's first and only artist in residence. They've never had one since, okay? And what that means for you guys is that I literally started drawing. I had to draw wedding dresses. I had to draw the New Albany Bulldog and Super Hicks because they were at state that year. Every day I was doing these drawings. They had to go into that lead I told you about, okay? And then they found out later that I was good at putting layouts together, just laying ads out. Then they found out I was even better at going out and selling ads. The only reason I was better is because all the people in the room would go out and they would sell one ad. They would prepare one ad. That's what we're supposed to do, prepare one ad one night, that night, and go out and sell it the next day. I would stay longer and I would develop 7 to 8 ads. And so when I came down in the next morning, I sold 4 or 5 ads. So while they were selling one, I was selling 5. Then one day I sold too much stuff, and the photography department got mad because there was a wedding section. They had all these photos they had to sell, and the guy came down, threw a camera on my desk and said, "You sold them, you take the pictures." I didn't know how to take pictures. And I said, I can't do that. And he said, "Yeah, you can." So he showed me the camera. I still got the camera. It's an old D1000 Pentax. And I still use it from time to time. But he said, "Just look at this meter, use this bracket, shoot." And that's what I did. And I've been known as the photo man at a lot of the organization because everywhere I go, I have my camera. Okay? So you pick up things, you learn things. You don't do it one time. You just say, how can I do more of this? How can I use this with what I'm doing? Okay? And this is absolutely the very last thing, is that when you leave high school, a lot of people, when they leave high school, they say, okay, and while you're in high school, and I know this because I was one of those, okay? I just want to play music and I want to play sports. That's all I want to do. I could care less about the books. But when I got out, one of the things that I became, especially in college, was that I just became a very avid reader, and I'm a very curious person. As a marketer, marketing is a study of people. That's all it is. It really is. That's all it is, a study of people. It's being curious enough to say, what makes you tick? Best class I took in college was a psychology class. Best class, because it's a study of people. And so some of the things I do, and I'm looking at that right now, just so you know, is that I teach listening skills. Okay, I studied it, I teach it. And that means I'm looking at you now, I can tell those that are paying attention, those of you that are more concerned about your fingernails than picking at them, those of you that are looking down and saying, when is this going to be over? That's fine, okay? I'm going to continue anyway because I'm looking at those that are looking at me and paying attention. All right? You've got to be curious. You guys, this is the future. You guys are the future of this country. And my generation was just taught to do one thing, and that was whatever happens to you, buck it up. That's how I was taught. Just do it. Get over it. Okay? You guys are in a different world. As I told you, I started in lead and print, okay? Look where we are today. There's hardly any print, okay? Everything's broadcast and digital. So I had to adapt. I had to pivot if I wanted to keep this business alive. How did I do that? I was curious about what the West Coast and what the East Coast was doing. Because if you haven't figured that out now, what's going on in East Coast and West Coast will get here in about 6 months to a year. So you're ahead of schedule if you keep up with that. You can be in front of that. We did our first website 34 years ago, I believe.
Wow.
We developed the first website in this region. Now, this was a company of 5 people that had a graphic designer, and I happened to meet a guy who was an HTML programmer, which I didn't even know what that was. Okay? And so we got together because I had a client said, can you do a website? I want to do a website. And I said, sure. So I told the graphic designer we're going to do a website, and he said, I can't do that. And I said, you can draw. He said, yeah. You do the drawing, I'll write the content, this guy's going to program. And we developed a website. I can't tell you, we average about doing probably 15 to 20 websites a year. For a small company, that's a lot of websites. Okay? But it's all because I'm curious. I want to know how to do this. Okay? Right now, we're on we got a lot of outsourcing, and sometimes outsourcers have got other things to do and they don't get back to you quick. So my small team can literally do any of it. If it has to be done now, we'll shift, we'll pivot, and we'll use that resource. We'll do it, okay? Again, contingency plans, right? Being prepared to take care of your client. So I really glossed over a whole lot of stuff I've tried to tell you, but the biggest thing, I want you to stay curious. The biggest thing, if you really want to be ahead of your competition, no matter what you're going to do in life, read. That is print, or you can read digital, I don't care. That's how I read my newspapers. I don't pick up print anymore, I took care of my phone. But reading a book or reading content of something that can help you grow your thought process, your feelings, okay, will tap you into different worlds and also open your eyes to a whole lot of things. The other thing I would encourage you to do is to travel if you get the chance. I've been very, very blessed to be able to be in Japan, to be in Ghana, okay, and be at a 4-story mosque, and be in villages where, you know, National Geographic shows Indian or African countries with women walking around with. Well, I've been there. That's actually true. That still happens. You know, I've been in India many times. My wife's been there 28 times. So it would change your life. It would change your mind about this country. It would change your mind about how blessed we are here because of what people are dealing with there, and yet they still have smiles on their face. Yeah, they just, big smiles. And it humbles you. So it just brings you back where at least you have some appreciation for where you were planted, okay? So I've said a lot of stuff. I've thrown a lot of stuff out. I told Alex I wasn't going to spend a lot of time on that, and I actually spent more. So what's with you guys? Questions? Concerns? Yes, sir.
How do people usually find out, like, or how do people go to you? Like, where do people go to you when they ask, like, for help?
Well, thank you. That's great. Honestly, the old days, it was like everybody else. We made cold calls. I got in business as a bank consultant, believe it or not. I helped banks acquire, merge, and grow. I built a brand. I got a reputation of that, and so what I would do is go into a town that had 4 banks, and I'd cold call on them. You know what a cold call is? Okay? Or I would shop them. Even more important. That's more fun. So I would go in and I would shop. Part of marketing is the people you talk to. For instance, if your slogan says we're the friendliest people on earth, and I pick up the phone and call you, and I hear, yeah, what do you want? That's not true. Brand is built from the inside out. So marketing and advertising can promise, but the organization, the inside, has to deliver. And if those two things don't fit, it all falls apart, and the client ends up spending a lot of money to put themselves out of business. Okay, one of the best blogs I ever wrote was the fastest way to put out a bad business is great marketing. Because the more people you bring there, the more people find the truth, right? But to answer your question, that's what we used to do. Today, I haven't made a cold call or done a business expo in 8 years. How do I do that? I do it with what I preach. I have a website. We do SEO. Y'all know what SEO is?
Search engine optimization.
Search engine optimization, that's programming. Now, WordPress will tell you that it does SEO, but they don't. They have a plugin called Yoast. And Yoast is better than nothing, but it's not true SEO. SEO is programming that's manually inserted. Okay, and we track that every quarter, and then we tweak it every quarter. We try to see, are we making the numbers right? So I have clients in California, I have them in Atlanta, I have them in Chicago. They're all over the United States. Midwest is a lot less expensive than California and New York. So if I can do what they want for Midwest pricing, they're all over it, okay? But that's how I do it. I use what I get my clients to do. I use
Pardon the interruption. At this time, if you are part of the environmental club, go to the gym for your pictures, please. Environmental club, please go to the gym for your pictures.
We also are very active on social media, okay? I do blogs, I do vlogs, I mean, it's just, that's how we do it. So people search. That's how they find us. The other thing that I was really blessed with was the name of the company. I'm not that smart. I'm a big believer that if you have a company, that what best to first start to brand yourself is to just say what you do, say who you are. So what I wanted to do is develop a marketing company, not an ad agency, a marketing firm. That's different. Ad agencies spend pretty much time on production. That's graphic design and AV, all this stuff. We spend time on solutions. In other words, I know that there's more to marketing than advertising. It's one piece. Sales is one piece, but HR is one piece. Because again, I gotta have those friendly people, remember? I gotta have those people that deliver on what they promise. Database management, statistical analysis, that's one piece of marketing. The biggest fall down to a lot of clients that when you're talking about how to get business, is something we do too, is that we make sure we're staying in touch with our current clients. That plumbing company, one of the reasons how they grew from one truck to 20 was that they had 8,000 customers they'd never talked to. We started talking to them and we started tracking them. Today they have over 60,000 customers. This is just 6 years later. 60,000 customers, and 45% of that business, their business annually, comes from their own clients. 45%. I mean, so you don't have to go out and spend a lot of money. You can just maintain, because marketing is all about consistency anyway. The problem with social media right now, a lot of people are not seeing a lot of success, a lot of growth. It's number one, they don't understand social media grows slow. So unless you're doing digital or you're doing outside boost and some stuff you can do, it's not going to grow much faster. A lot of it has to do with poor content, and they don't know that. Okay, they're talking about stuff that nobody cares about. They care about it because they write content for themselves, and they can't. They're supposed to be writing content for their customers. All right, what does the customer want? They don't care. Our clients don't care how big we are, and when I first started this, how big your agency was a big deal. If you had 4 people walk in the room, boy, you're important, right? But you're also paying for those 4 people, okay? Today, nobody asks me how many people I got working there. They don't care. All they care, can you get the work done? Same thing with you. If they hire you to do something, they don't care how you get it done and who you work with, as long as you just get it done. But as far as getting business today, everything we do and everything we teach our clients is all about search, because that's where it is. 85% of everything comes from Google today. Google search or whatever browser you use. But that's it.
So each company that comes to you for like marketing, is it like a new challenge each time?
Yeah.
Find like a different way to approach it each time, or is it just like after a while does it kind of get like this?
There is a format. We developed a format 40 years ago. I'm talking about it has like 5 things that we have to attack or address. That pretty much is in place now. How we use those, that's what's different. Because if a landscaper hires you, okay, that's one kind of, there's products and services and all kinds of things you got to learn to write about, okay? As opposed to a doctor who hires you, that's a whole nother level, And and some of the people that work with me, I don't have them. They just can't write for doctors. They can write for landscapers or auto dealerships or something like that, but they can't write for doctors. It's there's a lot of homework you got to do if you're going to write for a medical practice. Okay, usually those are ones I do. Okay, because I've done it for years. So part of it is matching up the expertise, but yes, there's a platform we use that's always the same. Here's where we start. We talk about the database, your client base. We talk about what have you been doing. One of the things we find out with a lot of clients, Derby Dinner was one of those, that some of the things they would quit doing is what was costing them from continue to grow. So we just brought them back. Some people do the right things. The problem is they quit doing it because they get bored. Well, that's one of the things you're going to find out in graphic design is that if you're doing graphic design, they will complain about the production costs. Why did it take you so long? The initial design probably didn't take you any time at all. I mean, this young lady I told you I hired, she's almost too fast, or too good at what she does. So, but the problem with that is that most of the clients we work with don't know what they want until they see it.
Yeah.
That's a big problem.
How do you deal with people's expectations when it comes to that very thing that you said, that they don't know what they want?
Well, first of all, you got to ask a lot of questions up front. And if somebody says, how much does a logo cost? Can any of you answer that?
Depends if you want a good one or not.
Well, that's answering a question with a question. That's not what they want to hear. How much does it cost? Well, how am I supposed to answer that? Well, it can cost you from $350 to $10,000. What? Well, I had a client. I've got several clients that when I talk to them, they kind of knew what they want, and they could talk to me, and I'm sitting there sketching it. Is this what you're looking for? Yeah. Okay, well, I can probably do that for $350 because now I've got some guidelines. But the client that can't even articulate that, it just say, well, I kind of want this, and I want that, and this and that is really nothing. It's too general. We had a client in Maryland. We went through that scenario, and they said they wanted this. Then when they saw this, they said, well, I kind of like that, and then it ended up being a $5,000 logo. Now, during the process, I explained, hey, this is going to be a lot more because you're keep changing things. And they said, we get it. We just want it right. So you're good then. And they paid the bill, and it wasn't a big deal. Okay, Maryland. Won't find that in the Midwest. So the first thing is start trying to tap into what they're visually trying to see and what they're trying to, what if it's a logo. If it's a video, same questions. What are you trying to extract this? Who's your audience? This is the biggest thing that's never asked when people are producing video, writing content. Who's the audience? And with marketing, it's all about that. Who's your clientele? Who's your customers? Who you're trying to reach? Again, you're not writing for you. You're writing to draw them in so they'll hire you. Okay? You also get, have you ever, you don't have any of these type of clients. My first medical client was up in Indianapolis, and the guy used to be the sports medicine guy with Bobby Knight at IU. Well, if anybody knows the stories of Bobby Knight, his ego, well, this guy had a bigger ego. I saw how they got along, okay? Big egos. So I got 15 doctors sitting there saying, we're trying to hire a marketing person, but I don't see you have any experience in the marketing business. I said, I didn't have experience in this, and we did it, and I didn't have experience in that, and we did it. And I said, I'm sorry, I'm confused, because now I know the ego I'm playing up against. And I said, but I thought you were trying to hire a marketing director and not another doctor. All the other docs are going like this, but I got the job. You have to understand your audience, who you're talking to. That includes the client. When the client wants something from you, you really got to say that don't ever just say, hey, I want a video, I want it to be about 30 seconds long, and because now the client's telling you what they think is going to work, but you're the expert. You're the one they're hiring. So speak into that. When you do that, they start hearing knowledge from you that they didn't think about. Because again, that's what you bring to the table. So you wanted about, well, the video I'm thinking about doing is going to be 4.5 minutes long, and I want to put it on Instagram. Y'all know what I'm talking about here? You don't put a 4-minute video on Instagram. It doesn't work. Okay? There's limitations. All right? How can you use that? Well, you can use it on YouTube. You can use it on Facebook. Okay? But the point is, you're now telling them you can't do what you want to do. You got to be willing to push back on that client a little bit and say, you understand your business, but I understand my business, and you're wanting me to help you, so here's how I can help you. Okay? So that's how you deal with that. You just be willing to ask the questions. You be willing to show interest. When you ask questions, you're showing interest because you're telling them, I want to do my best for you. So don't ever be afraid of that. And if somebody starts making you feel afraid of that or starts beating you up on that, then I just walk away. Because you'll regret it if you don't.
So you talked about price point, just like how much things would cost. It's probably one of the biggest things I struggle with when it comes to wanting to get into like, audio and video kind of stuff is how we're charging people.
Yeah.
You talked about how, like, you know, you say how much it would be, and I feel like a lot of times that would scare people off whenever they don't really know what they want. Is there any real way to like work around that, or is it kind of just like a well, next person kind of thing?
Well, first of all, know where you are in the ranking of that field. So, for instance, I had a young man last year that was at an event I was putting on, and his dad was a maintenance guy there. So he had brought this little drone, and he was flying around doing photography with his drone on this event, which I didn't care. But anyway, I just got talking to him, and he said, I just got this, about a week ago, and I've been playing with it. And I said, okay. I said, you got something you can show me? He said, yeah, because he didn't know. So he didn't know he could make money with it. So he sent me some stuff that he had not only shot, but edited, and honestly, it was very good. It was very good. And so I said, well, I said, tell you what. I said, you tell me what you charge me to do a shoot. Here's the criteria of what I'm shooting and where. Here's what I want shot. So I was very specific. And you tell me how much time it's going to take you and what's the finished product. Well, what I was asking for is about a 1.5 minute flyover of this area. Origin Park is one of our clients. That's that 430-acre park that we're building in Clarksville. And so as a flyover there, well, he came back and he said, well, it's $50 okay? Seriously. And I just started laughing. I said, no. And I said, it's a minute video. How much time do you really spend on that? Well, I spent, so I said, well, I'm going to give you 300. Well, you thought I'd just give him gold. But I also told him, I said, realize, you're selling yourself short. But if you'd come in and say, hey, Vern, that's $500, I would have also pushed back the other way. Because I know how much time it would take me to do it, okay? Because part of what we talked about is when I shoot video, I shoot to edit. A lot of photographers, you don't think about the next step. If you're shooting video, if you're shooting photography, what are you going to use it for? Okay? If you shoot,
you have come up against this, right? If you think about what some of the projects you've had to do with video stuff, and you might love this shot or that shot or this shot or whatever, but then when you get and start editing it, you realize you don't have what you actually need.
Yeah.
Right?
And that happens a lot. I also shoot to edit because it makes editing for a lot of companies, especially when video first came out, would take twice as long as what the shoot did. That's expensive, but if you shoot to edit, that should more match up, and you turn the product out faster, you get paid faster. Okay? If you're shooting a photo, and I'm shooting you like, okay, I've got you bracketed in the center, but I know you. If I'm bracketing you in the center, but I know I'm going to use this for an ad, I want to put a copy over here on the left, then I'm going to adjust that over, right? You see what I'm saying? What are you shooting for? If it's going to be used for a web ad or something like this, it's going to have typography over here, you want to shoot for that. Okay? There's always a next. There's always a reason why you're not just shooting that. Now, if you're shooting birthday pictures, of a family event, that's one thing. But if you're if you know you're going to edit that video or pictures later on for something, or shove it into a PowerPoint or a slideshow, then you're going to add verbiage to that. That's what the stuff you have to think about when you're shooting.
Yeah, it's very important, very valuable. Just because we still have about 20 or so minutes, but I want to get to this question just because I want to get your perspective on this, and I want them to hear your perspective, and then we'll get more questions and stuff. So if you were going to hire a remote freelancer person for video or audio or photography things, what
on what skill there was about it. First of all, this man had a drone, and when I was looking for him to shoot, drone video for me, which he has been doing. That it?
That's it.
Okay. All right. So if you come to me and you're going to shoot photography or whatever, I would of course have to see your portfolio. If in today's world, and you all should know this already, the old days everybody brought in these big old things, and in college, if you go to college and you go into this stuff, you'll do team projects. Don't ever come in on your team project and say, I did this. No, the team did that, because I will be the one asking, what part did you do? Well, I did this piece over here. All right, always show your work and be proud of it, okay? Because you may not be the best right now, but it doesn't mean you can't be the best. Like I say, I started this business with a pen in hand. I mean, I marvel sometimes at the stuff I'm doing now. It's just because I've been open to it. But to hire this person, the first thing is, are you really good at what this that you say you want? The other thing is that what else can I do with you? I will ask you, if you're a photographer, how good are you on Photoshop? I had a young lady tell me when I hired her, well, I've never had any formal training, I'm self-taught. And I said, well, here's a project. Let me see what you do. She still is probably one of the best Photoshop persons I've ever worked with. She is fast, she's quick, she's got an eye. That's another thing. In your photography, it will tell me what kind of eye you have as a photographer or a videographer, okay? Because I always see what you're seeing and what you think is important, which may not be right or not. If you say, hey, this is a video on X, but I see what I'm getting was more Y, then it tells me your perspective is, your direction was wrong. You weren't listening. That's another thing. A lot of people are so passionate to answer questions, and you know that. You start to say something, they will go ahead and give you the answer. In this business, you have to be willing to be patient and prod and ask questions. You also have to be able to listen. One of the things I carry with me, besides this phone, is that I have a little thing called, there's a little tool out, you guys may like it or not, I love it. It's called a Remarkable. Anybody seen those? It's one of my favorite things because when I first started, I learned how to type, with an old Remington with a big sheet of paper, and I was doing this because I can now type about 65, 80 words a minute doing that because I've done it so long. But I use a Remarkable because a Remarkable is a little pad you can buy that has a little pen and you can just write on it. Use your cursive, just write, take notes, and then push a button and say change the text, and then send it to my computer. Or in mine, it matches, it partners with my computer, so it pops up. So because I can write faster than I can type, and so I take notes on everything. If I'm in meetings, everybody's worked with me long enough, they don't even bother taking notes and outlines in meetings because I'm writing them. Why do I do that? Because when a client comes back and says, that's not what I told you to do. Yeah, it is. Because as soon as the meeting's over, I turn around and send it back to them and say, here's what we talked about. This is what I'm going to be doing. Is this correct? And if it's not, please adjust. If they don't adjust, I move forward. All right? So I protect myself because I learned the hard way, because if verbally you said, that's what I said, that's not what you said. Okay? You have to find a way, if you're going to be in business, okay, or you're going to do work for people, find ways to protect yourself, and that's how I do it. Okay? But this person, I'm looking for diversity. I'm working, I can't afford people who can just do one thing. And I don't know any marketing firm or agency in this area that's going to hire you just for one thing. Okay? Not in the design creative side. You're going to want to kind of build your skills where this kind of helps with that. So if you're doing video, how does that work with social? okay? If you're doing video for, how does that work for events? Can you shoot a big event? Okay, and edit that. How well do you know the audio part of that? Video is great, but it's horrible if it's got bad audio. A lot of you, that's one cool thing that's happened over the last several years with phones, iPhones, and I have a Google Pixel. Is the audio and the video components in this are crazy good.
Oh yeah, video side is very, very good.
But the audio side, a lot of times, if you know you're going to do interviews and stuff like that, invest a little money in another microphone to help you. Because just like he's doing this today, you could put a boom on it, it might be fine, but this is always much better. Okay, I'm pointing in my pocket where the microphone is. All right, but diversity is something he's trying to get me to say here, is that you have to be able to do more than one thing, okay? Don't just rely on one thing, but be good at that. But also be able to, doesn't mean you have to be the best. Remember the young lady she said, well, I can take pictures, but she had no confidence in herself. You all talked to her today, all right? She took a web class, but she's never been. Today's web, have any of you done websites yet or played with it?
I have, but that's not really a part of their.
I understand, but I'm going to point out something to you. This is, if you're a creative, this is going to be something you could add a skill relatively quick. Everybody knows about 48% of the websites out there are WordPress sites. WordPress sites are HTML/PHP, and I'm not going to get into all that, okay? But most people don't take the time to know programming. All right, so they're hard sites to build, and they're hard sites to maintain. There's two platforms out there right now that if you're creative, you can build a website probably in about an hour. And it's called Without Code and Duda, D-U-D-A. These are templates that are very intuitive. Here's a place for a picture. Here's a place for copying. And you can literally, and there's templates for that even with hardly any skills, you can build a website, a small website in a couple hours. So what I'm saying, the technology has gotten so much better for you to have the ability to do it, to simply diversify and spread your wings a little bit. You know, they're there and it's relatively easy. But diversity is a big deal. Can't do more than one thing.
Other questions here, folks? Franklin, you have a question? I always call you Franklin. Sims, you have. Franklin.
Have you ever taken shots off the motorcycle ever?
No, I'm sorry, the shots of what?
Off a motorcycle?
Yeah.
Well,
If I was taking shots of motorcycles?
like taking pictures off the motorcycle.
Well, the cool thing with the technology today, especially if you're in a sports, if you're in a racing or you're in motocross or bikes or whatever, the cool thing today is really the technology, and again, that means not just if you're using a camera, but a video, okay? And honestly, the next step would be drones. With racing today, and the follow me option on drone technology, if you know anything about that. You don't know what a follow me technology? Okay, you can program a drone now that if you're in a car and it's driving, it will literally be above you and it's just following you. Okay, and you can manipulate it down here. That's pretty cool. So a racing sport, that would be something you want in your toolbox. Okay. The other thing is know the sport well enough. Remember we talked about different clients and different things. First thing you guys do is really delve in and know your product. If you're shooting NASCAR or if you're shooting motocross, what are the things that pop up the most in motocross? Okay, most of those are going to be jumps, right? How do you capture those? Where do you have to be? What position? You have to rethink all that. Okay? Does that make sense? Before you go out and shoot, you need to think through the process. You don't just go out and shoot. There's always a plan. Okay? Or there should be on your shoot of what shots you want to gather, especially if you're working for a client. You want to make sure you hone in You might be home, if, you know, whether it's race car or it's bikes, there's always a number somewhere, or colors, you know, that you can hone in on and make it interesting. You know, not just shooting bikes running around. You know, there's more to it than that. Yeah.
How do you market yourself, like if you're a race car driver to get sponsored?
Am I marketing myself what?
Like if you were a race car driver to draw sponsorship?
Well, that goes back to, yeah, then it goes, that's a whole nother platform. Now you're talking about a business, and you're the business, okay? So part of it is always capturing, again, the technology is in your hand anymore. We all have phones. So the technology, you start there. You start with what you have. The quality, the HD quality on most phones today are strong enough to do a nice edit, you know, so it's just like in high school. If you were I shot a lot of videos years ago on kids that were athletics. You know, they were really good in sports, like a baseball player or whatever. So I would show up and take pictures of them fielding. I would take pictures of them batting. I would compile their score, their statistics. In other words, it was more than just taking pictures. I was gathering information. I was including that in the final video for my pitch. That's what you're doing. What's your ultimate goal? I want to pitch. Why would I sponsor you? Here's why. That video is going to tell why. That's the purpose of the video. Does that make sense? So that's what you start. You get your product, and then the next plan is what I'm going to do with that product. Who am I going to send it to? Who might be interested in that? And honestly, the first place you start with that is the people you know closest. On sponsorships, especially with drivers or bikers that are racing or whatever, you start with your family members. You start with your friends that know friends. That's what's so important. That, you know, I was told earlier the story about being called the scrounger. I love that because I know a lot of people, and it's very rare that somebody calls me and says, "I need somebody to do this. Do you know somebody that?" I can say, "Yeah, I do." And that's a freebie. I mean, I'm not going to do it and make money for myself. I'm doing money to help them and help that person. So it's the same thing with you. That they would do that if you were pitching yourself as a race car driver. You start with the product, said this is why, and if you can't do it, you get somebody to help you do it. Then you take it to your close round, and then from them, they'll tell you, well, you need to talk to them first too, okay? Or you come to a marketing firm and talk to them about how can you help pitch this. Yep.
Other questions here, friends? Anything else? Anything else you'd like to share, or you think that they should be asked?
Yeah, one last thing. We talked about this, and it is, I promise you, the last thing. You guys, what are you, 16, 15? How old are you?
15, 16, 17 for the most part.
Okay. All right. I was telling Alex this story, and it's a real short one, but my daughter came back from college her freshman year and was telling me all the stuff she was going to do in life, and I was listening, and what she was going to be, and I sat there and I said, and she looked over at me and she said, well, you're not saying anything. You don't sound like you don't sound like you're too interested. And I said, I am interested. I said, I just hope that works out for you. And she said, well, that doesn't sound very positive. You don't think I can do this? Has nothing to do with me thinking you can do it. I thought I was going to be a music professor. All right? What I was trying to tell her, I said, things will happen when you're in life. You know, I said, you're in college, you could meet a young man tomorrow, and everything changes. Your focus, your attention, everything. And other things could happen. And it's just life. And that's what happened to me. Life changed, and I just shifted with it. I had no intention. I told Alex this. If you told me when my hair was down to here and I was playing rock music every weekend and I was working over here that I was going to be running a marketing firm for 40 plus years, I would have laughed at you. That wasn't even in the picture, okay? Life just changes. And the biggest thing I can tell you guys is, first of all, just be patient with yourself. Be patient with yourself. Don't set your expectations so high that if you don't meet them, you think it's over, because it's not, okay? I've been through a whole lot in my life, a lot of losses and a lot of ups and downs, and there's just a focus that, you know, and with her, she was going to be this journalist, this big journalist that you're all going to be watching on television. You know, within a very short period of time, her focus on journalism changed, and I won't go into that's too long of a story, but she ended up being a double major with English and journalism. Came out and had a whole different perspective, and her first job was with personal counseling down here at raising money, fund developer. She's been a fund developer since that time. But she used all of her background, because she could draw like I can. No training, just can do it. And next thing I know, she's, as I was telling Alex, she now is one of my freelancers. She's doing websites, she writes content, she writes articles for a lot of magazines around here. She's doing a lot of things that she never thought she'd be doing. Okay? And she's loving it. So just be patient with yourself. You're going to go through changes in a lot of different things, and doesn't mean, you know, that you can't find something better, because I think I did. And I maintain my passion on my music, and I still draw. So, you know, I've been able to maintain it all and still make a good living for my family and myself, okay? That's it.
Hey,
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's thank Mr. Eswine.